Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. You see, the Total War Warhammer series is great, yes, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have its flaws. There are of course a few issues with the series which has kinda made things kinda stale. But now, as we are aware that Total War Warhammer 3 will be released later this year, it's about time that these issues were highlighted, and hope that they have been acknowledged and attended to for the release of the third and final game. None of these issues will be highlighted or ranked in any specific order, it's just going through all of them which come to mind. A quick disclaimer here is that I obviously love the game. If I didn't, I wouldn't be spending so much time dropping content on it. A Total War in the Warhammer Fantasy universe was something I had been begging for years. But I want to see it at its best, and there are issues which aren't really making it its best. So without further ado, let's begin. Let's start with diplomacy. Diplomacy in Total War Warhammer is incredibly stale. It's more or less just a guessing game with no real way as to know when you'll be able to seek a pact. Non-aggression pacts are more or less simple enough. But if you want to seek peace with another enemy, or even just get a defensive alliance, these things take a long time, and sometimes it can drain your faction's coffers incredibly badly. We won't get too much of the lore-friendly aspect of it, as of course this is more of a sandbox game, although I will say as a fan of the lore that I do find it extremely odd that you can ally with the Skaven as a dwarf. But it's more of the case that diplomacy just seems very stripped down and bare. And then when you take into account other Total War active titles such as Troy or Three Kingdoms, their systems themselves are just so much better. I think that the Three Kingdoms diplomacy system is a bit too much for Warhammer, but the system for Troy works extremely well. It's not too complicated, but a lot more complex than our current available one. The Troy system for diplomacy is extremely user-friendly, and much more easier for players to feel inclined to actually try diplomacy out. Next, we'll look towards battle maps, the generic ones outside in the usual world. Let me just say, so help me, if I end up seeing a statue of Sigmar halfway through Cafe or in the Chaos Waste, I might just break down and cry. More maps are incredibly needed, and I'm not just saying the basic reskins, which is becoming very common in Total War Warhammer, but just different shapes of maps, different areas, different actual biomes, and different just formations. It honestly feels like both Troy and Three Kingdoms have a lot more to offer in terms of map variety, whereas in regards to Warhammer, you're pretty much seeing the same map over and over and over and over and over and over again. Sorry about that, but like I said, the statue of Sigmar makes me want to cry. I mean, it even shows up in Middenheim. Map variety keeps the game fresh. It makes you more inclined to actually do a battle rather than just auto-resolving all the time. The same visuals over and over, even if it's just the base skeleton of the map, will get boring and the player will start to lose interest. It is understandable that of course creating new maps does take quite a time, but many of these maps themselves aren't really balanced in the form of a normal way. Perhaps procedurally generated battle maps might help a bit more. There doesn't have to be specific balancing towards these maps, but perhaps if things were changed around a little bit, maybe players wouldn't feel so inclined to actually auto-resolve every fight. Or sit at the corner of a map, because that's probably the best way to go with massive leadership bonuses. I honestly feel like the standard battle maps for Total War Warhammer might be the worst from the whole Total War series. With all that being said, we'll move on to our third but related point: siege battles. Siege battles need a desperate fix. Siege battles in Warhammer have always been downright horrible. There's one way to play, and that's staying there at your marker rather than manning the walls. Again, Troy and Three Kingdoms have a better system. Sure, they're not perfect there either, but they're still a lot more fun than that in Total War Warhammer. The siege system in Warhammer desperately needs an overhaul, even if it's just implementing the same style and system of that of Three Kingdoms and Troy, where comparing them to Warhammer makes them look like they're immaculate. We'll talk about AI in brief, as I honestly think that the AI is just fine, for the most part at least. You have to take into account that most sandbox games like this are always kinda full of stupid AI. You see it in Civilization, you see it here, it's just always going to be a thing. What does need to be improved, however, is the fact that armies in the AI seem to recruit very random unit compositions. It's really strange when you start seeing armies with nothing but a full 20 stack of Longbeards. Or even worse so when you see a Vampire Coast army with nothing but bloated corpses. Yes, they can do a lot of damage, but if the army only has that, well, it's not really going to do much against you anyway, is it? Of course, we can't have a video dedicated about stuff that needs changing without mentioning the Horde factions. Horde factions are incredibly boring, it's just something that's been the case for a long time now, and it just doesn't seem to get any better. They tried to work out a system with Nakai the Wanderer, but honestly, even that falls short. The pseudo-horde system implemented for the Vampire Coast works rather well, but it doesn't work thematically for every single horde faction. The Beastmen, for example, would not really fit with that. The horde mechanic introduced for a Total War Saga Troy would indeed work very well for factions like the Beastmen. But even then, it feels like it wouldn't really be enough. There has to be some unique feeling towards it rather than just some sort of copy-paste. Though if a copy-paste is the only option, please copy-paste. I know I wasn't going to say too much about the AI, but in all honesty there is one glaring issue, and that is obviously the battle AI. AI in the battlefield can be horrendously stupid. I'm assuming most of us have seen Legend of Total War's video, where he uses a single Gracier to almost completely solo a 20 stack of Chaos Warriors. Something like that shouldn't happen. The AI just sits there for most of the time whilst he starts casting his spells. An AI should realize that if it's being attacked, there's obviously an enemy around, and it should start searching for it before it causes way too much damage. The issue there is actually easy enough to replicate, and I've actually done it myself. It's kinda weird. A refresh system in regards to ruins needs to be implemented. It's incredibly frustrating when playing as a horde faction where you've just destroyed a city, but then it gets resettled instantly afterwards. It halters the horde faction's progress, and, well, it's just not that thematic anyway. If a city gets destroyed, you'd expect for it to be at least 2 or 3 turns before it could be resettled once again. This not only makes it easier for hordes, but also punishes the standard empire builders. And lastly, something that very much needs a change in Total War Warhammer is the implementation of a proper tutorial. This is not so much for established Total War players and so on, but for newer players getting into the system. Warhammer, Three Kingdoms, Troy, they've all introduced new players into the Total War series, and it would just help if there was a proper tutorial, not just the basic battle one that you see in Warhammer. The advisor does come in every now and then and offers, well, advice, but it's never really something too concrete. A proper tutorial system will make things so much easier for new players and just keep them involved in the game that much longer. It can be assumed that Warhammer 3 will introduce a lot of new players to the Total War series, and it would be a shame if they didn't have anything to learn from. Sure, there are guides and so on, but bear in mind that YouTubers create guides at certain points. Sometimes races can radically change, and those guides will be very outdated. These are just some of what I consider to be the most glaring issues in Total War Warhammer, and of course I could have missed a few. So if I have missed any, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. Like I said, I love this game series, it's something I devote my time to very heavily, but even I can say it's not perfect. But then again, not many things are. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.